Hello, beautiful people. So why is holistic healing important, right? Diseases and disharmony in the body, in any form in the body, presented as chronic pain, chronic symptoms, as disease in the body, right? Are all, or mostly all, to do with coping strategies. So the body is a system that gets stressed, and the majority of the time we have these lifelong stressors or in coping mechanisms that are built in when we're children, in our childhood, in an attempt to compensate for the lack of validation, lack of love, lack of feeling enough, lack of feeling loved, lack of feeling worthy, and a desperate attempt to bond with your family of origin or your caretakers, right? So this is really crucial to get. This is really, really important. And from the words of Gore Made, one of my mentors, doctor and trauma expert, so coping mechanisms and behavioral patterns were generated and entrenched in our brain due to childhood trauma. And trauma can be big trauma with a capital T, or small trauma, which is the adverse childhood events like the ACE, right? Which we know now, and it's been scientifically shown, it's been shown in studies that children with high adverse childhood events have high levels of disease in their body, pains, chronic pains, and various different symptoms, even symptoms that cannot be understood why they have them. So what they're called medically unexplained symptoms, right? And this is because the children are given the messages when we're children. A lot of us, when we're children, we're giving the messages that we were not good enough, right? That we were not loved enough. We were not given what we needed because the parents were not present, or they weren't able to be there, or whatever the reason was, or our siblings, constant rejection or bullying, right? So it's not just from parents, but it's also but these beliefs that we get entrenched and embedded into our brain, we believe them. And so we create coping strategies to soothe ourselves. It's in a response, it's a protective mechanism to protect us from the pain of this strong lack emotion, lack of love, lack of validation, lack of feeling enough, right? So we try and soothe ourselves because we don't know, in fact, we're never taught how to soothe our nervous system or taught to soothe our emotions, right? We're not taught to do that at school or at home from our family or from our parents. I mean, hopefully you were given some soothing tools, but most of us weren't. And so what happens? The soothing tool, this lack of the attempt to soothe ourselves usually comes in the form of an avoidance behavior, an attempt to soothe, though, right? To not feel, to soothe those emotions. We develop addictions or bad habits, bad behavioral habits that try and fill the void of this strong feeling of lack that we may be feeling. So if you are constantly given the message that you are not good enough, that that you are not worthy, that what you had to say was not important, or what you did was not good enough, you might spend the rest of your life trying to prove that you are worthy. And how do we do this? We do this by being nice to everyone, not being, perhaps it's you don't feel, or certainly I didn't feel until you know, I realized this, that my feelings were important, right? So you may be going through life feeling that your emotions are not important, and you might not like to feel or show your emotions because you're having your fear of being rejected. It may be showing up as not expressing your healthy anger, on setting boundaries for people, right? So there are different ways these coping strategies kind of come into our lives, and I'm just hoping that this will give you some, you know, to start thinking about what is it that your coping strategy may be. Your, you know, behavioral pattern might be needing an upgrade, right? Another way, maybe this, I also had a lot of, was that you're trying to cope, to show your worthiness and compensate for the feeling of lack by overworking, over striving, you know, this needing for success to prove yourself in your worthiness, right? So this is all a compensation for the deep rooted beliefs in ourselves that we're not enough. And I'm going to go into my story a little bit about this tomorrow, a little bit more tomorrow, and how I overcame it. So if we don't get to the root cause of the deep rooted beliefs, then we are literally at risk of compensating and spending the rest of our lives compensating, right? Taking on too much, not saying no, not expressing our emotions, avoiding feeling our emotions by whatever means that's possible, overworking, or addiction to foods, addictions to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, failing relationships, or non-working relationships. And at some point, they all show up. It all shows up in your body, right? All of this stress will show up in your body. All of this trying to fill the void, because our body is always listening. Our body is always listening to our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, our self-beliefs. And this creates a lot of internal conflict and the disregard for self, or disregard for our belief, you know, for this lack of self-love, lack of self-belief, who has a chronic, creates chronic stress in the body, basically, and the internal system in the body. And as I've said in many of my videos, stresses have massive impact, negative impact on our physiology, on our immune system, on our cardiovascular system, on our heart, and our nervous system, on our, you know, and they ultimately cause dis-ease and dysregulation in the body. And in the words of Gorbet Mate, quote, he's a doctor and trauma expert, most diseases are not random and arbitrary, as most doctors think they are, that they're actually a result of lifelong stressors that result from from the child attempting to compensate. So I just want you to just bring awareness today into a coping strategy that you may have, a pattern that you might now start thinking is no longer serving you. Maybe it's also contributing to your suffering and pain and symptoms. And if you want, you can go and see my video from last time. My previous video was about how you can transcend these patterns. And I'm also going to go in a little bit more detail the next time to bring some more awareness, because I'll bring in my story, and hopefully that will help you to understand a little bit why I had so much chronic pain and how I was able to overcome it as well. So if you like this video, please share it. Sharing is caring. And subscribe, share, and hit the bell if you want for more videos. And also leave me a comment to let me know. Maybe I can, you know, by writing it down, it helps to bring some awareness. And the awareness here is key. So with that, I'm going to love you and leave you, and see you next time.